Welcome to the Sub-Proctor training for Spring 2017. Thank you for attending today's training. We will provide you with the information necessary to serve as a test proctor for Orange County Public Schools. We will especially focus on the expectations and the duties of a test proctor. The spring testing season runs from the end of February through the end of May. It is important to note that students only test on select days during the testing window. During this period, these assessments are administered to students. Florida Standards Assessments, English Language Arts and Math, Florida Standards Assessments, EOC, Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, Next Generation Sunshine State Standards, FCAT 2.0 Reading Retake, Next Generation Sunshine State Standards Statewide Science, Next Generation Sunshine State Standards EOC, Civics, Algebra 1, Biology, and U.S. History, and finally, Orange County Public Schools Common Final Exams. Once you arrive at your assigned school, go directly to the front office to check in. To ensure the safety and security of our students, your Kelly Services badge should be displayed at all times. After checking in, notify the front office staff that you are assigned as a test proctor. The front office staff should direct you to the test coordinator's office. When you are assigned as a test proctor, the school testing coordinator will serve as your direct supervisor while you are on campus. He or she will ask you to sign the test security agreement for their records. Though your primary task will be to assist with proctoring and assessment, we ask that you be flexible in assisting with other assigned tasks related to student testing as needed. We do not schedule half-day proctors. Even though testing may only go through half a day, you are expected to stay at the school for the full day. There will be other duties assigned to you if that happens. Some of the other tasks that you may be asked to assist with are listed here. Pack up materials to take to classes, check out materials to teachers, sharpening pencils, sort test tickets, count out materials, monitor hallways, escort students back to class, escort students to other rooms, run messages to the front office, post signs, supervise breakfast, snacks, or lunch. While assisting in a testing room, you may be asked to collect electronic devices, distribute or collect test materials, assist students with logging into their computer, and monitor students during the test. When monitoring students while testing, be on the lookout for students who are not working independently and students who may be using unauthorized aids or devices. If you witness any of these infractions, notify the test administrator at once. Per State Security Statute 1008.24 and Florida State Board of Education Rule 6A-10.042 Florida Administrative Code, inappropriate actions by school or district personnel can result in student or classroom invalidations, loss of teaching certification, and or involvement of law enforcement. All proctors must participate in the Professional Standards Assessment Security Training prior to administering or proctoring any standardized assessment. This training only needs to be completed once this school year. Testing coordinators should retain original copies of completion certificates of all proctors and test administrators. The training is accessible to both OCPS employees and non-employees, via all student assessment IMS pages for both elementary and secondary assessments. We will now watch the Professional Standards Assessment Security video, which shows why assessment security is so important and how you can ensure that test security is maintained before, during, and after testing.
Welcome to the 2016-2017 Test Development and Measurement Department's Professional Standards Assessment Security Training. To uphold the integrity and validity of all district, state, and national assessments administered within our district, all faculty, staff, and volunteers who will participate in the test administration process are required to complete this training. The consequences of not taking test security seriously are real. You may recall the public humiliation of Atlanta public schools. We must be vigilant in our approach so that no one in our OCPS family ends up on the evening news.
The largest cheating trial in U.S. history began amidst a district praising itself for increasing test scores. But the kudos, considered statistically impossible, came with suspicions. An erasure analysis conducted at the University of Georgia looked statewide at more than 750,000 answer sheets from the 2009 CRCT.
And I just stood there. I was like, did they just say Beverly Hall or what?
Meantime, in 2009, Dr. Beverly Hall received her job's highest honor, National Superintendent of the Year.
These kids only get one shot.
In August 2010, Governor Sonny Perdue appointed former Attorney General Mike Bowers and former DeKalb DA Bob Wilson as special investigators. They brought in dozens of GBI agents, and revelations of cheating began to come to light. The investigators released a scathing 400-page report under Governor Nathan Deal's watch with claims of cheating dating back to 2001. The report implicated 44 out of 56 schools, 178 educators, including 38 principals. More than 80 confessed to erasing students' answers on tests or helping them cheat. Most shocking, the report painted Superintendent Hall as not only knowing about the cheating, but creating a culture of fear and conspiracy of silence that allowed it to happen.
The Fulton County Grand Jury has returned an indictment.
On Friday, March 29, 2013, a grand jury indicted 35 educators. Within days, they began turning themselves into the Fulton County Jail for booking.
The financial terms were a motivation all across the board.
Over the next several months, 21 educators pled guilty to lesser charges. On September 29, 2014, 12 remaining defendants went on trial for racketeering, charges generally reserved for organized crime, and lesser counts involving lying and taking bonus money. Essentially, they're accused of using the school district as a criminal enterprise to inflate standardized test scores. Not only did educators testify, but students who still struggle in school because of learning they lost during the years of cheating. Over 6 months, the prosecution called more than 130 witnesses. The defense brought on less than 30 people. Dr. Hall, who did not go on trial as she battled stage 4 breast cancer, died on March 2nd, before closing arguments on March 16th. On March 19th, a jury of 6 men and 6 women on the jury began deliberating.
Today's training is presented by Frank Gilbert, Cynthia Landers, and Barrington Maxwell. In addition to today's presenters, Casey Libersat, Melissa Sarasti, and LaTanya Nichols are the other leaders on our district's testing professional standards team. We are committed to the secure administration of all high-stakes assessments within the Orange County Public School District. As we continue to experience more changes in the ways we assess our students, it is critical that everyone associated with district, state, and national assessments understand the importance of test standardization. The purpose of this training is to provide clear and focused information about fair and consistent test security to all faculty, staff, and volunteers involved, and their role in ensuring that every test administration is successful and secure. At the end of this training, participants should have a clear understanding of the relationship between assessment security and useful test results, the difference between the teacher role and the test administrator role, and the consequences of security breaches. Assessment security means that the test items within an assessment, whether paper pencil or online, remain confidential at all times. This includes before, during, and after testing. Well thought out security procedures ensure that no one has access to the assessment's content before the test is administered, and that the student's work is his or her own, and that all materials are kept free from tampering while in the school's custody. The purpose of test security is to provide fair and valid test results for students, teachers, and schools. In order to make sound educational decisions, we as a school district rely heavily on the validity of test results. Allowing students or teachers access to test content prior to the assessment window would give an unfair advantage, jeopardizing the validity of the test. The purpose of test security is to provide fair and valid test results for students, teachers, and schools. A securely administered assessment provides an accurate picture of a student's knowledge and skills. Test security also helps to level the playing field for all students. Students who have access to information from an assessment before the official administration results in the student having an unfair advantage on the assessment. In order to make valid comparisons between students, schools, and districts, assessments must be administered in a secure and standardized way. Because high-stakes decisions are made based on assessment data, it is crucial to get fair and consistent test results. This data is used to evaluate district and statewide curriculum, to compare student, teacher, school, district, and state performance in a fair and equitable manner, to determine student grades, promotion, and graduation. If test security is violated, it compromises the quality of district and statewide decisions and the district's ability to accurately judge performance. And it hinders our mission to be the top producer of successful students in the nation.
School-based test coordinators take the lead in managing the assessment process at school sites, but everyone has a hand in the responsibility of making sure that every assessment administration is successful. The very moment assessment materials arrive at your school, whether it be hard copy or online, someone must be responsible for its security at all times. When the assessments are not being actively administered, materials must remain in a secure location. Testing materials should never be left out on a teacher's desk or be placed in a teacher's mailbox. Test administrators must implement testing procedures, secure testing materials, maintain the integrity of student responses. Did you know that breaching test security is against the law? Florida law is very precise surrounding test administration and security. The entire text of the test security statute and the test security rule can be found in the back of every test administration manual. Florida Test Security Statute 1008.24 on test administration and security states, a person may not knowingly and willfully violate test security rules adopted by the State Board of Education for mandatory tests administered by or through the State Board of Education or the Commissioner of Education to students, educators, or applicants for certification, or administered by school districts pursuant to Statute 1008.22, or with respect to any such test, knowingly and willfully to give examinees access to test questions prior to testing, copy, reproduce, or use any portion of any secure test book, coach examinees during testing, make answer keys available to examinees, fail to follow test administration directions, participate in, direct, aid, counsel, assist in, or encourage any of the acts prohibited in this section. There is also a Florida State Board of Education security rule, of which all faculty, staff, and volunteers working with assessments must be aware. As I read aloud, note the important points. Tests implemented in accordance with the requirements of Florida statutes shall be maintained and administered in a secure manner, such that the integrity of the test shall be preserved. Test materials, including all test booklets and other materials containing secure test questions, answer keys, and student responses, shall be kept secure and precisely accounted for in accordance with the procedures specified in the examination program, administration manuals, and other communications provided by the department. Every assessment has different guidelines for handling materials. Specific training will be provided for each assessment. Test security is vital. Though every assessment has its own specified security guidelines, having an organizational plan is crucial. School assessment coordinators will receive test-specific training before each assessment administration. There are some security procedures that should always be in place, regardless of the assessment. This includes all test materials being kept under lock and key, with access limited to the school assessment coordinator and approved essential personnel. Having an organizational plan is critical to conducting a good, secure administration of any assessment. Secure test content should never be used to prep students in advance of testing, nor should test materials be made available to students or teachers prior to administration. If a teacher has participated in the creation of an assessment, such as the Common Final Exams or CFEs, he or she must not use any materials or knowledge gained in their participation to prepare their students prior to testing. As a reminder, all participants of the CFE creation process signed an assessment security and non-disclosure agreement, prohibiting them from sharing any secure documents, items, or information with students, teachers, or any other individuals. A breach in this security would violate the Florida Test Security Statute and the Florida State Board of Education Test Security Rule, as well as their signed agreement, and could result in disciplinary action. Any concerns around someone violating security should be reported to your school-based test coordinator or directly to TDM.
Security is paramount during the administration of assessments. Students play a special role in maintaining test security. Before testing begins, students should always be made aware of testing rules surrounding prohibited activities during the administration of an assessment. Here are some common prohibited activities that students must not partake in during testing. During the test, students are prohibited from talking to other students or making any disturbance, looking at another student's answer sheet or computer screen, allowing another student to look at his or her answer sheet or computer screen, asking for help answering any test questions, giving help to another student in answering test questions. Having notes or scratch paper other than what is provided by the test administrator, having any electronic or recording devices at any time, including breaks even if you do not use them, failing to follow any instructions given. In many cases, students will be asked to read and or listen to these prohibited activities before physically or electronically signing a student testing rules acknowledgement. After the test, students may not discuss the test items with anyone. This includes any type of electronic communication, including but not limited to texting, emailing, or posting online to websites like Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. If a student is found sharing information about test items, even without the intent to cheat, his or her test will be invalidated. For the duration of the assessment, you are a test administrator, not a classroom teacher. A test administrator must maintain a standardized test setting, assure students work independently, remain neutral. A test administrator must never help students find an answer to a question or clarify an assessment item. Point out missing or incorrect answers to students. Read the test booklets as students are testing. Make notes about or copies of information on the assessment. Answer phone calls or otherwise use electronic devices except as allowed to manage the assessment. Test administrators and proctors must not either verbally nor non-verbally impact student responses. Standardization is vital for ensuring that every student receives the same testing experience. Every test administrator should read the script verbatim, give students the appropriate time, familiarize themselves with the test sessions that are being given, read the manual, and be comfortable with all the processes surrounding the administration before the assessment session begins, provide specified and allowable accommodations to designated students. If a student has a different assessment experience, their score is no longer comparable. It is important that assessment results convey a clear picture of what students know and don't know. With the many new gadgets and methods, spy pens, temporary tattoos, even hidden cameras, being used by students to cheat on assessments, test administrators and test proctors must be even more vigilant during test administration. Administering or proctoring a test is not a passive activity. All administrators and proctors must be consistently attentive to what students are doing and circulate around the room in an unobtrusive way. During an assessment, one should never read, shop, pay bills, grade papers, work on a computer or electronic device, or do anything other than actively monitor students.
Students are discovering more and more ingeniously covert ways to cheat on tests. All are reasonably priced and are readily available online. Check out this new spy pen. A student can easily purchase a pen complete with digital video camera. These new smartwatches that many of your students receive for Christmas are being used to capture pictures of tests and share them with other students. Got a student suddenly sporting new glasses during a test? Perhaps they're wearing spy glasses. When you're driving on the highway and you see a police officer in your rearview mirror, the first thing you do is slow down, even if you weren't speeding. Active proctoring is like that officer in your rearview mirror and deters students from making bad decisions like using electronics or sharing answers or information about the assessment. Remember that students are endlessly creative. Proctors and administrators must remain vigilant to maintain test security. You are the adult and role model in the room. Active participation on your part will ensure a secure administration of the assessment. Security doesn't end after the test has been administered. Many of the test security breaches that happened in Atlanta took place after students had completed their test. After the assessment, materials must be returned to your school-based test coordinator in a timely manner and using the secure process that he or she has set in place. The assessment's content must be kept secure even after testing has ended. All assessment materials, including the student response materials, must not be tampered with in any way. After testing, it is never acceptable to read student responses or any test content, remove stray marks on a booklet or answer sheet, or check or alter student responses in any way. Maintaining security also means that a teacher must never talk to a student or anyone else about the content of the assessment. There are many other things to discuss with your students and coworkers. Discussing an assessment is never appropriate or worth the consequences of breaking security procedures. This is an illustration of a class taking a standardized assessment. Can you spot all of the security issues? Did you spot the students passing notes and talking during the assessment? These students could be cheating. How about the student sleeping in the front row? She should be on task. Be sure to stress the importance of the assessments to all of your students before testing to encourage students to use their time wisely. Did you notice the student covertly using his cell phone? Be sure that students understand the no electronic device policy before the assessment begins. Test administrators and proctors should understand the processes around the electronic device policy at their school. What about this test left unattended on the desk in the front row? Assessment materials should always be secured if a student has to leave the testing room or is absent from testing. Finally, all of these things could have been prevented if the test administrator had been actively proctoring the assessment. It is never appropriate to read, grade papers, use electronic devices, or participate in anything that takes your attention away from the students who are testing.
Assessment security is important, and there are consequences to breaking the security rules and procedures. It is not worth it. There are many ways to detect whether or not an assessment's security was violated. The state and district use various techniques to do so, including erasure, gains, and similarity analyses. Many security concerns are brought to light through reports from students, teachers, and parents. Contact your school assessment coordinator or TDM directly if you are concerned about a breach in security. The cost of violating security and impacting student responses can be very high. In Atlanta, in 2009, various school district employees tampered with student responses and faced criminal charges. This was discovered through forensic analyses that are used in the state of Florida. State law and district policies have been set in place to discourage these kinds of actions. It's not worth it. Students may not graduate, teachers and administrators can lose their jobs and certification, school grades could drop. Most importantly, impacting responses is not fair to our students. It is important that assessment results portray a clear picture of what students know and don't know. False results make it impossible for students to receive the services that they need and deserve. Inflated results also keep the district and state from making informed decisions based on these assessment scores. Once again, it is not worth it. You will be asked to sign the test administrator prohibited activities agreement and or the test administration and security agreement at the conclusion of your school assessment training. As the holder of a professional teaching certificate in the state of Florida, it is your responsibility to uphold the standards and expectations of your profession as stated in the FLDOE's Rule 6A 10.081, Principles of Professional Conduct for the Education Profession in Florida. We thank you for your time and attention. Please be sure to complete and sign any required security documents for specific assessments. As a reminder, these activities are strictly prohibited before, during, and after testing. Reading or viewing the passages or test items, revealing the passages or test items, copying the passages or test items, explaining or reading the passages or test items for students, changing or otherwise interfering with student responses to test items, copying or reading student responses, causing achievement of schools to be inaccurately measured or reported. Do you have any questions? At the school, all questions should be directed to the school test coordinator. In the testing room, all questions should be directed to the teacher or test administrator. All other questions should be directed to your Kelly Services representative. Thank you for participating in today's training.